G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. Turbo Tristan here, and today we've got Chris, John and Stig because we are working on Rhonda the race car. And in today's episode we are doing the final prep for our race, which is going to be, by the time this video comes out, we're releasing it on the day of the race. So we'll be at the races on the 4th of June 2023 with a stack of improvements. One thing to mention though, in this budget enduro, for us, we're using it as a bit of fun. We're not trying to win or destroy the whole competition and just blitz everybody. It's more for us. We do still have to stick to the 1:35 time, which we will be doing, but we just want to see how good we can make Rhonda on a budget with all of the bits and pieces and tricks and expertise that we all know. So we've got Chris, who is a mechanical engineer, so he wants to do some practical stuff. We've got Stig, who has spent his whole life doing suspension stuff. This man here. So we've got the expert. And we've also got John, who's also spent his whole life doing brakes. So we've got a bunch of stuff to do on the car. Some cosmetic things, some aero things, and we've done some brake things. We've done some exhaust things, and we've done some interior things. So I'll get to all of that. Before we get to the aero, we're gonna have to take a trip back in time when I started this stuff a few weeks ago. So we're gonna jump into that now, check out my thought process, what we did and how we did it with cutting the floor. That's right, we're doing full aero, flat floor in the back. Check this out and I'll bring you back up to the future in a moment. It is currently Anzac Day. I'm on a day off, so I've got the sun shining and it's a beautiful day. So what am I gonna do? Cut up Rhonda's ass. For aerodynamic purposes, I've also discussed this already with the guys from Team Rhonda Racing, so Chris, Stig and John, but we're gonna do a bit of aero. Now this is not so we can win the competition or be really competitive. This is just for us. We're really into this sort of stuff. We wanna see what sort of a difference it makes. And we know that there's quite a bit of drag here behind the wheels. So the air comes under the car and can get stuck in this pocket here. Also, I've already cut out this section here. You'll notice on normal Accord Euros that you've got this big section down here of the rear bumper. And when the air comes under the car, it catches in here. It's like a parachute and sort of, or stops the air coming out of the back of the car. So we've already cut this bit out, and that seemed to do fine. What we're gonna do now is follow these chassis lines. Now, we're gonna cut up the back of the car, but we're not gonna hack it up to a point where we're losing any structural integrity, or we're not gonna remove any of the safety out of the car. So we've got this crash bar here. So this is the rear bumper bar, and we've also got the rear frame rails here. And you can see Honda's already kind of half thought of this because they've got the frame coming down to this point here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to follow this line along here and continue right around and cut this off. Also going to do that along here. So from this line here on the body line, so just straight across to there, we're going to cut out the wheel well and it's straight across here like so. And from the inside of the boot across the top, we're going to rivet in or weld in a floor and just flat floor that. From the underside of the car, what we can then do is get a flat piece of carbon or plywood or alloy or steel or whatever we want to use. We haven't decided that yet, and just go from here straight across to there, all the way to each end. So any air that comes under the car can then go up to here and then shoot straight out. So we'll have that bit of diffuser extending just out the back of the car around about 50 mil or so. And then from there, we can put some fins down here to around about sort of this height anyway, to deflect the air out of the back of the car on maybe a bit of an angle or even just straight out. And we can then run from here straight down and underneath, and we can mount some brackets onto here. So it's picking up the air from here and basically forcing it to sort of suck out the back And with any luck, that will make a difference to the rear downforce and also help get rid of the pressure underneath the car. Really, I don't know what it's gonna do. It's gonna look damn cool. And we'll get the other guys like Stig and John, who are much smarter than me, and Chris, who's a mechanical engineer, to explain how and why this is gonna work. I've just got some time today, so I'm gonna get started with the easy bit, which is cutting the bumper, removing this plastic tray, and I'm gonna line mark out that. I don't know how excited I'm gonna get and whether or not I'm gonna cut the bottom of the boot out or not. So we will definitely see about that. Well, the rear bumper is cut. Nice and fairly neat, as much as you can get with cutting plastic with a 4-inch grinder. I've spoken to the guys in the group, got a group chat going, and like I mentioned earlier, the frame rails, we're leaving that as our lowest point because it's structural. The rear bar goes across here to here. Inside, there it is down there on the ground. And if we cut that all flat, we can then flat floor all the way out to the edge with a big sheet of something or other. We haven't decided yet. All the way out here, square it off so it sticks just outside of the bumper. Underneath here, we've got these structural like folds. Now you see all these weird folds in the back of cars like this, and they're all to keep a flat piece of tin strong. So this won't flex if you push on it. But if this was just a flat sheet, you could push on it and it would go boing, boing, boing like that. Yep, that's the exact sound that it makes. And the same with this. So we could theoretically cut the tub out here, just after this pinch weld here. But I think for me, because we're gonna cover this with a sheet anyway, a sheet of wood or steel or carbon or whatever we choose, alloy, anything, it would be good just to have this little bit of a curve inside and underneath there just to help strengthen everything up. We can always cut it out later if we decide to, but same goes here. We're going to keep this pinch weld here where everything joins on, and I'll just do a line down on that flat section there and just cut it from there up to there and straight across. That way we've got some metal left over, we've got some strength in everything, and then once this bit is gone, we'll weld a bar in behind there between these 2 points just to give this bit something to mount to, and we'll just do some spot weld tacks along there just to stop it flapping around. And I think that's going to be the best solution. Because we're going to have a totally flat floor, we're still going to need somewhere to jack the car up from in the rear. If we jack the car from this point here, we get both wheels off the ground at once, which is really handy. Now with the flat floor, we can slide the jack in under, and I think we put a bit of box steel just under here that we can paint fluoro as well, drop it down, and then we can use that as our jacking point. It's below the sway bar. It's on this structural frame part, which is nice and strong. And if we put a bit of box steel on there that drops down, we've got plenty of room, and it'll be a great point to jack the car off. And because it's long, we can spread the load out. So that's my science. I don't know if it's right. We're gonna find out. If not, the whole back of the car is just gonna fold in on itself and we're gonna have to throw it in the bin. But grinder time. Well, that actually took around about 3 minutes to cut out. Really, really simple. It's like butter. This metal is really thin, but like I mentioned, these dimples and all these different bends and stuff make it really strong. So yeah, just cut straight through all of that. I'm going to go over it with the flap wheel just to tidy up any sharp edges, but you can now see perfectly flat floor from the frame rail all the way across. We can run our board out here for the AERO, and we can also run a flat plate along here inside the car, so that's nice as well. So probably rivet an alloy plate along there and then something stronger underneath here, like I said, out the back, so that we can have the diffusing effect. This is still structurally pretty strong, but we'll probably notch this out and put a bar across here, like to strengthen this, and then another one across there just so we don't have a wobbly inner floor. And then we can probably mount things to it like our Optima battery. Now that we've done this, we can now plan what the next step is. So now that the floor has been hacked up, which you've just seen, we've had Chris come over and he's painted this special sort of hard wearing hammer tone finish. KBS, is it? Yeah, it's first time I've used this or been involved with this, and it's like a hard sort of a 2-pack or a ceramic sort of a finish. It's very hard, like glass on there. So that's just cleaned up the boot. We've sealed everything up. We've put some tin in the floor so we can mount things to this in future. We've put a couple of bars on here, which you can see under there. So some reinforcement bars. That's 20 mil by 50 mil box steel. We've added in a little fluorescent point, which is how we're going to jack the car up from now on. And we've put riv nuts in the floor to mount our rear diffuser. So we'll get over to that in a moment. We still have to make some modifications to it, but it's about 90% done. The next thing I'm going to do is a cosmetic one. We've got this blue film, which we're going to tint the headlights with to give it that race car look in the front, make it a bit more aggressive. So this is really cool. We've got a few meters of this, which we just got on eBay. Also, I used up the remaining McLaren gold tape, which we got from RACEWORKS, just on the bonnet there above the headers. Now we don't have a heat shield. Didn't really need that on there, but we had some spare, so we used it up. So I'm going to get to work ripping the bumper off, sticking this over the headlights. I tried to clean them and cut them and buff them back to bring them up brand new, but it didn't really work. So we're just going to cover them with this. All right, so after a little bit of finagling, I've managed to get the blue adhesive contact tinting colouring vinyl on there. And what do you know, eBay lied. The pictures said there was a really, really bright blue, kind of like this blue, but transparent. But it actually, it's just a very faint tint of blue. But it's better than it was, so we're leaving it. Looks pretty cool, but I do wish it was a bit more bluer, being that it's a race car. We want to really make the eyes pop on the car. But anyway, go around to the back and show you what else we've done. So the boys have been hard at work with the rear diffuser plate, or the flat floor. And if you're wondering what material we use, this is Bunnings marine ply. I think it's around 9 millimeters. And that's what Gears and Gasoline use on their EK K-Swap race car, and what another couple of local guys here that do a lot of time attack stuff use. Yeah, marine ply. It's a bit of plywood from Bunnings. Still budget. It's not full on carbon fiber Kevlar reinforced stuff yet, but I'm sure one day, once we learn how to manipulate all those materials, we'll be giving it a crack. I know Chris is keen.
100%.
And we've made it come out around about 100 mil or 10 centimeters out of the back, and just slightly, so it's in line with the guard just here. And we've still yet to just trim up inside there where it give the wheel a bit more clearance. But I think you'll agree that looks pretty sick. Heaps more mods to come on the rear end of this, but I'll show you once it's up in the air what it looks like. But we're just doing a little bit of a stand back and appreciate the handiwork at the moment. It's got to be pulled up. We've got to put a tow hook in yet, and put the rear center exit exhaust back on, which looks bloody cool. So we've done our test fit of the flat floor diffuser board, and now we've just got to make a little bit of a trim here adjustment, which follows these lines here, which is inside the wheel well, and also makes it meet back to here. We're a little bit out and straight, so that's going to affect where the tire goes. So we're giving a bit more clearance, come back to this line, and then straight across. So we've marked that out here. We're going to make the cut, and then it's pretty much on for the final time. Exhaust back on, and then we can talk about any kind of diffuser fins or things in the future. But the main thing is to get this up. We'll obviously repaint the edges again with the sealant so it doesn't get full of water. All right, so just rounding that up again. So it's all aerodynamic, Formula One style. Look at the technique. Just like that.
Jumpsuits or just sweated Rhonda racing.
Alright, so we've got the board on now. We've made the little cutouts to follow this. We're going to put another bracket just in there, just so it doesn't do this. So we'll hold it up just in that corner. Alrighty, here is the finished product of the rear diffuser, flat floor, and we've trimmed out this little space here for the tyre. We've got some heat shielding for the muffler because this is wood at the end of the day, and it's plenty strong. You could almost, although I wouldn't want to risk it, you could almost hang off it, but yeah, there it is. Now we've just got to put on our center exit exhaust, which is over there on the floor, comes up here and then straight out the middle. And the center exhaust is on. It comes out just underneath there. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's how it is for now. 3-inch all the way through, hot dog, and we've got the elusive headers. All of the exhaust materials were supplied by Exo Exhaust. There, some local guys. And this is just from car builders, so you can pick that up at Autobarn. This is great heat shielding. You can use it for pretty much any of your projects. It's bendable, kind of like a really hard tin foil, but you can sort of mold it and, you know, grab it and squeeze it around all sorts of areas. One more thing we have, which is going to help us out in our 6-hour enduro race, is brake cooling and ducting. And what we've actually done here is we've reached out to HONDED Developments. Now, HONDED is a local engineer, but he sends stuff all around the world, including brake booster deletes, rear brake caliper kits, front brake caliper kits for all Hondas. He does the best I've ever seen camber arms, upper and lower, for most Civics, and he's expanding his range to cover just about all Hondas that are performance orientated. You're not going to get them for your Odyssey, but all the Integras, Civics, sedans, hatches, all of those models are all included in the HONDED range. So what you can do if you don't have a car that they make parts for, you can buy bits and pieces of their kits and adapt them yourself, and which is exactly what we did here. We got some ducts that duct the air directly into the brakes. So these work a lot better than the tubes that a lot of people run down and they put a shield on the back there. They only work in a straight line because it's forcing the air through the front of the car. The air guides, or the air ducts, are the same sort of design as you would see on a Porsche GT3 or some club ready track car that you can go buy from an exotic car maker. But these are a very hard plastic, and they just scoop the air in from under the car and direct it straight into the brake, and you can see that is blowing directly onto the caliper and, importantly, the rotor to keep that nice and cool. And that is definitely going to help us at the track save our brake pads and keep our temperatures down. So I've just had a quick chat to John. He knows all about this stuff, as I mentioned a million times, and he gave me a really good bit of info. So braking systems turn kinetic energy or motion into heat. So when the brake pads grip onto the rotor, that's creating a lot of heat because it's creating a lot of friction to slow the car down. And having this air guide duct the air and blow it straight onto the rotor and around the caliper area is going to help bring those temps down quite a lot. And these work when the wheel is pointed in or out, while you're going down the straight, while you're going through corners. It's catching the air that's always moving under the car and just grabbing it, enough of it, and flicking it straight into the rotor. HONDED have a lot of information about this on their website and all of the different engineering nerdy stuff that proves that these actually work better than the ducting that goes from the front of the car through and then goes onto a shield. I'm no scientist, but check out HONDED's website. They'll be able to learn you a thing or two about how that works, but we've now got a set. Good news is I'm sending the template that I used to make little bracket system. I've sent that over to the guys at HONDED. So I just bodgy this up in the shed. They'll do the CAD designs, all the laser cutting and all that nice stuff to get those made for CL9s in the future. So they've got the info now and we've done it, so we know it works. One more piece that we got from one of our supporters, and also one of the products that I import from the UK from T7 Design, is a coil pack cover. That goes on here. It's a nice flush mount and it comes with all of the hardware. So I'm going to slam that on now. Need two hands. I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. Well, Rhonda has been put to bed. The VL has been put to bed just for now. It's a bit too rainy to take it out for a drive. And the Civic is up there asleep as well. So that means we're at the end of today's episode. And I hope you guys really enjoyed the progress on Rhonda. We've punched out a lot of work. Cut out the boot, flat floor, diffuse the panel. That's all been made, bracketed. We've welded in some bracing in the floor. We've moved where the battery is. We've put in brake ducts, we've put the T7 Designs cover over the coils, blue headlights, and also we've painted out the boot. And I've sealed all that up as well because I did go to town on it with the grinder. So now we're all done with that. Until next time, spool up, bring the boost. Don't forget, hit up the shop for merch, all your parts for your RBs, your Civics, your Accords, all other Hondas and all other performance cars. Spoolup.com.au, grab yourself some merch, and we'll see ya in the next one. Cheers.